Attention, changes are coming. From April 20th to 23rd, the celestial bodies line up in a configuration known to astrologers as the Grand Cross, and this event promises to be a turning point in the lives of many. This cosmic game involves such powerful players as Pluto, Jupiter, Mars, and the Moon, making this period not just a rare astronomical phenomenon, but a time of decisive change that can radically alter the course of destiny. If stability and confidence in the future is felt at this time, it is worth preparing for the fact that the event horizon may be draped in clouds of temptation, provocation, and internal conflicts. External circumstances will also challenge, testing old beliefs and familiar ways of life. However, behind these challenges may be a chance to open the door to a whole new reality that you could only dream of before. What will happen these days is not just an astrological forecast, but rather a strategic plan that allows not only to withstand the impending storms, but also to turn every blow of fate into a stepping stone on the path to personal growth and prosperity. The ability to correctly interpret the signs and act in accordance with them can be the key to triumph. So, beginning April 20th, Pluto will enter an active phase, launching a whole series of temptations and provocations. During this period, many will feel as if they are in a psychological decompression zone, where all feelings and emotions are heightened to the extreme. The influence of Aquarius will increase the pressure in the 12th house, which is responsible for hidden fears, displaced from memory events, karmic debts and destructive patterns of behavior. Pluto, like a silent but inescapable surgeon, exposes the most carefully hidden sores of the past, whether it be addictions, long-standing mental torment, financial difficulties, or shackles that constrain emotional freedom. Debt obligations come to the forefront, becoming the leitmotif of a difficult period. Those who rashly took loans, giving in to fleeting impulses or other people's influence, now feel the full weight of the consequences. Some representatives of the sign of Pisces suddenly remember the dubious deals made in the past for fear of being left with nothing, or trust in imaginary friends, convinced of the general acceptability of such actions. Now, in addition to pressure from credit organizations, they are gnawed by inner shame for their weakness. In the work teams, the last masks are being torn off, revealing their true faces. Where before there was patience, now there is an irrepressible desire to break the vicious relationship in one fell swoop. People who Pisces for years kept near for years out of a sense of duty, pity, or fear of loneliness, suddenly become objects of open hostility. There comes a turning point, when it becomes obvious that further delay is unacceptable, a radical exit or transformation is necessary, there is no other way. However, Pluto is not a destroyer for the sake of destruction. Its purpose is to open a festering abscess to save the whole organism, giving it a chance to heal and renew. The realization that financial difficulties are the result of past gullibility or short-sightedness marks the beginning of liberation. As soon as the representatives of the sign of Pisces openly recognize their miscalculations, not trying to find excuses for them, they are suddenly open to the prospect of restructuring debts, finding new sources of income or complete abandonment of unprofitable enterprises. It is likely to receive a proposal that previously seemed completely unrealistic, but this becomes possible only after a person bravely faced their inner demons. Pluto passing through the sign of Aquarius, or rather through its characteristic traits, shatters outdated notions of collective roles, where Pisces is accustomed to playing the role of a comfortable, malleable, and unassuming colleague or friend. Now comes the realization that inconspicuousness is not a defense, but an insidious trap, and the rejection of this role becomes the starting point for a profound personal transformation. Everything that was previously perceived as something imposed from the outside is now seen as one's own, conscious choice, and therefore subject to rethinking and change. In the current phase of the game of the Grand Cross, the winner is not the one who has more power, but the one who is most honest with himself, who is not afraid to expose the darkest and most painful aspects of his life. In the place of former trepidation, an inexhaustible source of energy is born, debt obligations are transformed into a clear plan of action, and painful relationships give way to long-awaited freedom. Pluto, like a strict but fair judge, demands an answer for the past, but in return gives unheard of power. He does not punish, but offers a deal, to part with an outmoded existence for the sake of a new life full of possibilities. The choice is up to each individual. On April 23, Jupiter enters the decisive phase of a complex astrological configuration known as the Grand Cross. Passing through the sign of Taurus, it activates the third house of the horoscope, which is responsible for decision-making, contracting, business communication, and financial transactions. Money, personal values, moral compromises, and the consequences of trusting in promises are centered. A seemingly immutable stability suddenly turns into a mirage. Various financial schemes, investment projects and verbal agreements are severely tested. Outwardly, everything may look calm, but in the depths there are large-scale changes and a reassessment of values. Jupiter calls for a responsible and mature attitude to finances. A simple desire to get rich is not enough, you need a clear strategy, the ability to say no, and the ability to see the hidden motives behind the words. Entrepreneurs may receive attractive offers that hide significant risks. Promises of easy and quick profits can turn into bitter disappointment, as a closer look reveals incomplete information, ambiguous contract terms, and excessive persistence on the part of the initiators. In the modern business world there is a tendency to displace electronic correspondence by personal meetings, because it is direct communication that allows to determine the true intentions of the interlocutor, whether it is a sincere partnership or hidden manipulation. The astrological influence of Jupiter in Taurus, in the third house of the horoscope, helps to identify the smallest details that can dramatically change the perception of the situation. For ambitious careerists open prospects for a rapid rise in the career ladder, but for this increase has to pay unconditional loyalty to the corporate system, where the responsibility for other people's mistakes can lie on the shoulders of the newly minted leader. Such career growth is often accompanied by internal torment and doubts, because intuition unmistakably catches hidden motives and possible tricks. While many are tempted by the high status, representatives of the sign of Pisces are able to discern the true background of what is happening. Refusal of a tempting offer becomes an act of defending personal principles, while consent means entering the game according to someone else's rules. However, Jupiter, as a symbol of justice, gives everyone what they deserve. Those who remain true to themselves and choose the path of spiritual maturity, new financial horizons open up thanks to unconventional proposals, innovative projects and cooperation with people who value professionalism and honesty. Financial prosperity comes through clear and transparent arrangements, new clients are attracted by an impeccable reputation, and opportunities open up through inner peace and confidence. The influence of the Grand Cross in astrology does not portend chaos, but rather symbolizes a transition into a new financial reality. The ability to systematize one's activities becomes the key to preserving vitality. The planet Jupiter favors large-scale endeavors only those who are ready for personal growth and development. Representatives of the sign of Pisces, having completed the period of rethinking values, gain a fresh look at the price of success. This new understanding brings tangible results, expressed in concrete dividends, devoid of illusions and based on self-respect. In addition, on April 25, the planet Mars enters the Grand Cross phase, affecting Leo and, consequently, the sixth house of the horoscope, which is responsible for daily affairs, office relationships, responsibilities, and personal effectiveness. The atmosphere is heating up and the time for a light-hearted attitude is gone. In the most mundane situations, whether it's a queue at the supermarket, a work chat or a parking lot, conflicts arise, seemingly from nothing. However, there is nothing random about it. Mars tests self-control, provokes a reaction, bringing out the irritation that has been accumulating for a long time. Pisces, endowed with power and responsibility, may encounter sabotage or behind-the-scenes intrigue. Employees, subordinates and partners express what they previously preferred to keep silent about. The behavior of those around them becomes unpredictable, requiring instant reactions. In such situations, it is important to have a leadership style that is not a show of force, but one of precise and cold-blooded determination. Leaders prove their authority not by loud shouting, but by clear and unwavering expression of their position. Aquarius' cold-bloodedness, manifested in the sixth house, helps them to maintain emotional detachment and firmly adhere to the chosen line of behavior. Creative individuals born under the sign of Pisces face harsh criticism. Clients express dissatisfaction, and colleagues question the significance of their work. At this point, the reaction plays a key role. An ill-considered word, spoken with resentment, can destroy promising cooperation. It is important to observe the fine line between self-confidence and aggressiveness. Mars does not tolerate emotional outbursts, but generously rewards those who are able to defend their point of view without resorting to humiliation. Where once Pisces was willing to compromise, they now demonstrate their strength and confidence. They no longer need to defend themselves, because the truth is on their side. Especially acute internal conflict is felt by women born under this sign. Mars releases the anger that has been accumulating for years, and he bursts out suddenly, loudly, and unexpectedly, shocking not only those around them, but also themselves. However, it is in these strong emotions that the energy for a breakthrough lies, not for destruction, but for liberation from conformity to other people's expectations and imposed stereotypes. An accurate and fair blow to opponents can restore lost self-confidence. For those who trust the stars and are able to decipher their messages, the planet Mars provides valuable guidance. Through feelings of irritation you can find new points for personal growth, through the growing tension to find clarity of thought, and the encounter with problems can lead to a long-awaited release. Representatives of the sign of Pisces, who have an understanding of the ongoing processes, will come out of this period with a renewed and hardened inner core. They are no longer afraid of loud shouts, or pressure, or critical comments. They realize their inner strength, which is what makes them virtually invulnerable. The play of the Grand Cross shows no mercy to the weak in spirit, but exalts those who adhere to honesty and show firmness of character. Mars ruthlessly cuts away everything superfluous and unnecessary. Those who have successfully passed his tests will never be the same again. Pisces becomes stronger, gets rid of all the superfluous, show toughness where it is really necessary. April 28, the moon in the sign of Scorpio brings emotional tension to a critical point. At this point, the seventh house of the horoscope, which is responsible for relationships, partnerships, marriage, and open confrontation, becomes active. Those who have not yet realized that the play of the Grand Cross is not a random provocation, but a decisive test of strength before entering a completely new stage of life, receive a final warning. Within the family units, long-standing grudges and recriminations that have been accumulating for years rise to the surface, now expressed openly and uncompromisingly. Suddenly, memories of past relationships before marriage surface, relatives insistently demand attention or interfere in matters in which their opinion is not required, parents reproach indifference, and children, on the contrary, accuse of excessive control. This position of the moon in the sign of Scorpio leaves no room for diplomatic maneuvers. Those who usually prefer to keep silent, suddenly explode, and those who avoided sharp discussions, find themselves in the very epicenter of a stormy clarification of relations. Love relationships reach their climax. Uncertainty dissipates, giving way to crystal clarity. Faded passion is transformed into irritation, unfulfilled expectations are painfully confronted with the harsh reality, and non-reciprocity ceases to be an abstract concept, becoming an undeniable fact that requires a decision: to leave, to openly express their feelings, to continue to tolerate, or to start all over again. In families where there are already conflicts, the situation heats up to the limit, conversations become straightforward and tough. In such conditions, the union is either cleansed of lies and gets a chance to revive, or the crack in the relationship becomes final and incorrigible. The moon gives its verdict without blandishments and ambiguities, determining the future fate of the relationship. In the harsh reality, it is resilience and steadfastness that opens the door to new opportunities. People who have the courage to recognize their mistakes, not shying away from strong feelings and taking responsibility for their actions, get a unique chance to make a significant leap in personal development. Someone finds the strength to restore a relationship with a dear person, someone gets rid of the burden of long-standing offenses and stops living with memories of the past, and someone decides to stop suffering where there is a long overdue need to make a final decision. The influence of the sign of Scorpio sharpens intuition and the ability to see the essence of things. Pisces has a gift for sensing what words need to be spoken, what deeds need to be completed, and what is worth keeping in one's life. Emotional cleansing becomes a reality only after a person finds inner honesty and sincerity with himself. Participation in the complex process symbolically called the Great Cross leads not to destruction and chaos, but to harmony and order. Those who are ready for change enter May renewed, freed from unnecessary burdens and ready for new accomplishments. Dear Pisces, now it is especially important to be attentive to astrological forecasts. This is not a time for superficial and entertaining horoscope reading. Astrological predictions are not just generic phrases, but valuable tools for navigating life's path. Each Pisces has their own unique path in the game of the Grand Cross. For someone it is a time of trials in relationships, for someone, in business, someone is on the threshold of a dizzying takeoff, and someone, on the verge of a breakdown. It is important to be able to see hidden meanings and read between the lines. If you feel an inner response to certain information, stop and listen to yourself. It may be a sign that indicates the direction of your further movement. It is very likely that this is where the key action is unfolding. It is necessary to carefully study the environment, paying attention to the smallest details. Not all elements will be useful, but among the many details there will certainly be one that will be decisive and bring the desired result.